Hello everyone. Hello. Here I am. Gosh, it's been so long since I shared. I am back from Lisbon, and whoever is here watching with me, I just feel like so compelled to share some real experiences. What happens, and it's only just an experience, and maybe it just resonates or not resonates because as you know, like some of you know, like me, and know my loving nature and my courage to open and to be honest with myself, which is such an incredible medicine. And when I share it, it feels so good because it's just an experience, and maybe we learn from each other. So we learn from sharing, and we learn from sharing our truth, or the assumptions of our truth that happens within the mind or something like that, or in your experiences. And as you observe yourself, if you're interested in observing yourself, I don't really know. It's a totally different way of living, and what I have been kind of, the surrender experiment, surrendering to moments and realizing potential in moments of growth, or how it can grow, and so less suffering or pain. And I talk a lot about that because it seems like that is so huge with all of us, and because the world out there is really chaotic and you can feel very disconnected with all of that, which I really believe that the world out there is a manifestation of the world in here and inside me. But I just want to share an experience of what happens to me as a choreographer, or as a creator, as a teacher, or anything. What happens in a day, say a day of a premiere, when I have a premiere, regardless of wherever it is, which also really influences my mental constructs, or my mentality. It really influences me, and this is really, really cool to know, like for me, because I've been since let me see, as a full-time choreographer, it's been over 10 years for me, and so I've created a lot of work with different groups and different companies and schools, and all. For me basically it's all the same. Excuse me, just one moment. I have to turn my laundry off. But anyway, I'm here. I don't know how long this video will be, but I started to write some things down, and what I can share with you is that what happens to me when I'm gonna have a premiere, or what happens to me. So leading up to a premiere, it's like when I'm working with dancers and I have a schedule and I have to go in and create, which you can't create on a time, just decide I'm gonna create. So there's these levels as I experience when I'm creating. First of all, I'm not at all interested in the reaction. My authentic self is not interested in the reaction of the public. So I never think about the public and this can be very disagreeable with a lot of people, but that's okay, because this is my journey and I share it with you because maybe perhaps you share the same thing. And because I work in a market, and I've been asked when I express that I'm not concerned about the audience because I don't feel like it's real. And with the audience, what happens with an audience, or when you think about an audience, how will they react? Will they get this? Will they get that? Now, there are many successful choreographers who create like this, and that's really, really beautiful and wonderful. And I realized that for me, when I'm trying to get something, or that's basically sometimes most of the time when I don't create narrative, and I do my thing. And there's been a lot of confrontation with myself creating my work, because I felt really, really these vulnerable feelings of not being liked or misunderstood, or like why don't I get this, or why don't I get that, and why does she and why does he, and then jealousy and envy and all these kind of negative emotions that arise. And there's nothing wrong with these emotions, but I really, really realized that as you observe yourself, if anyone does, and if you don't agree with this, it's like, okay, you can turn off the camera, but I'm like, it's also an assumption, because what I'm saying is I'm assuming that most people have this, because I read books that people, where it resonates with me that this is a common experience, where you have these thoughts, these negative thoughts about you, about your work, about people not liking your work, about people not liking you as artist or as a person, or like I'm inhibited, I'm shy, I don't feel, I feel fear of being me, and just being okay with being me and all this. So what happens when I'm creating a process, there are many emotions that come and go. Like some days I will feel very, very, very excited, and what I'm doing is really, really, really great, and I'm creating, and the flow is happening, and I'm getting information, bits of information. Now I channel my work. I don't really prepare so much, and that's also maybe something people don't share with that. But I'm not interested. I'm interested in the moment, and sharing the moment with dancers, and sharing my moment with dancers, and sharing with people. Not, I'm labeling them as dancers, but they're people. I don't care how old they are. I don't care from what level they come from. I don't have that, so I don't see lack from a person. I see potential. So that's just a little side thing, So that's why, the reason I've come to really realize why I do what I do. So I guess in some ways I'm a teacher, and without even trying to be a teacher, I'm on the same level as everybody that I meet. So these roles, the roles that I play, are the roles that could be played as choreographer and dancer, or teacher and student. They can all be related to the same thing, but because they're just constructs and concepts that we've all made up in our head in a way. And you know this by observing your feelings and your thoughts about everything that you're doing. So during a creative process, I can really get a feeling of unworthiness, like as I go, and what will they think, and then I start thinking about the future, and I lose the moment. I start thinking about, like, will the audience like this, or will I be validated? And I know as I watch those thoughts that they're so they're so irrelevant to why I'm doing what I'm doing, but because the ego's been so conditioned to think that it needs some kind of validation by anybody or anyone, is part of the conditioning that I've agreed with my domestication of when I was a child. And I've talked about that before in the sharings that I share. And I find that this conversation could be had, or this conversation could be had, because what it does for me is, what it has done for me is that I've realized that any kind of desire of any kind of outcome brings me pain and suffering, because I relate to that if this is not successful, because for failure and success are the same things. They're the same thing. You cannot recognize, or cannot have one without the other. And sometimes you succeed and sometimes you fail, but I think they're concepts, because I spend a huge part of my life trying to get everyone to like me, and I happen to go through certain doors in my profession of dance that really gave me a certain kind of ticket. And if you see, this is my own play and my own assumption and my own need for approval and desire of that, that is there. And I did that for so long. I did it at my school. I was bullied in school. There was a lot of things, I talk about, which is very, very common. And what I realize when I have these kind of conversations with people, and they're real conversations. I don't like necessarily the charade of people trying to be more important than they really are, because no one really is. And that there's a lot of influences of domestication and condition and culture, and I realized that in my travels all over the world with every kind of group that I meet, even from the youngsters to seniors, like I meet these people. And let me come back to my thought. These thoughts arise, and so, okay, here is the premiere day. The premiere day is coming. If in my process when I'm working with dancers, which I create and I channel my information, I do channel, because I make a lot of decisions in the room, and I listen to my intuitive idea about creating. This isn't this isn't for everyone, I guess, because we all have our ways of creating. Artists are all valid. I think it doesn't matter. There's this judgment that comes along with that. When you judge others for the way they are and the way they're arriving to some kind of result of creativity. Now believe, if you're not a dancer, you can totally relate to this because you're creating your day. You're creating everything in your day. So as I premiere day comes, there's a lot of thoughts, or even prior to that, it could, say the night before, I was so excited because I had seen my work on stage and I put it there, and it was totally accepted, and so I got really, really excited about that it will be, and some old resonance of old conditioning can come and rise and go, everyone will really, really like this, blah, 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 blah. And that is also an assumption or an illusion that arises in my head. And I tell you this because it's so beautifully loving that I recognize that in myself, this happens. So here I am on the premiere, and the anticipation's coming, I'm really, nothing is to be, you don't know how things will unfold, but what I can really rely on is that my centeredness, the center of myself, not my ego, because the ego is really, really sly and clever, and it twists and turns everything that people say. That's with compliments or with, I wish you all the best, or all these kind of things. My mind can really change the information or a compliment into because they're also just being so nice. So all of this, I only know this because I'm aware, and I surrender when I'm surrendering to all of my thoughts, positive or negative. Of course, we like the positive because they feel good. That's what we've been, and the negative, which will arise. So I really say this in all sincerity, that I am assuming, then again as an assumption, that the concept that the idea of thoughts, positive and negative, arising in everyone's mind, we are all conditioned this way. I don't think it's unavoidable. Some more than others, of course, and some less, and some people are on automatic pilot. And this is not a judgment. This is just learning about myself and learning that these things arise. And I put a lot of pressure on myself to be number one in my past, and I really, really firmly share this because I think it's the most beautiful observation of myself to recognize that on a premiere day, when I'm sitting there and I'm sitting in the audience and the curtain's going to go up, I have a little, my heart doesn't beat as fast as it used to when I felt the huge vulnerability or the need for people to validate me or like what I'm doing. I can know in myself that I really, really love everything that I do. That is also a little thought comes in there and say that's really selfish, or you can't love yourself, all this stuff, which I think is bullshit. That's why I share this, because I can really rely on myself, and I like all my work. Now, I prefer some to others, but what I do enjoy very, very much, and as a teacher, I guess more a teacher, someone would label me, I would label myself as a choreographer. I don't know. It's not interesting for me. It's just not interesting. I'm interested in putting my work out on stage, and I have the opportunities. I'm incredibly, as you know, I have the attitude of gratitude because I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I don't go out and searching for these things. I stopped searching for my work, for people to employ me. And I have realized that the universe works in so mysterious ways, so I really don't really say no so much, because the universe is providing me opportunity to create, regardless of where it is or whatever. I'm not attached to that circumstance to bring me any kind of happiness or any kind of reward, if you will, and this is good or bad. So, again, to go back to what happens to me on a premiere day is when I'm sitting there and the curtain's going up, I really look forward to seeing the dancers on stage. I don't know what will happen, and I know that the process that I've had and that I've shared and that I've encouraged them with all sincere consciousness of not belittling anyone as I rehearse. I really validate very much my awareness that I can be aware and conscious and be constructively critical. And I also don't believe in my opinions. I also, an opinion of how I think someone should be. In my past, I was a little abused psychologically, and I could say physically, but that's a whole different story. Because I wasn't how someone wanted me to be. Now, I've met adversity very, very young at a very young age in my life. So this is where I come to. So I say all those things because many thoughts can arise as I'm watching and as the curtain goes down, and I'm sitting I go and I bow. My conditioned self, my domestic mind, can attach very much to the applause and the need of being approved by the audience or anyone. My conditioned mind, my domesticated mind can decipher and filter every compliment or every look that I'm receiving, that they think it's bad or they're just being nice when they say these things. So that can be, in my past, that could really cause me to want to hide from the contact with people, especially after I've created something. And I find it really very, very interesting to share because as I center myself and recognize all those thoughts that rise and fall and feel that I know that for me, it is the most important thing is my sharing with the dancers. And to be able to share, I know nothing about anyone else's opinions. I assume all of these things in my mind. The assumptions that come and rise and fall are so temporary that it is to know that and to go through it and not to run away from the fact that I am me and that I am feeling happiness within myself. Because of my sharing, because I'm brave. I put myself out there, and as any artist, and if maybe, I'm aware of the fact that it can feel very, very vulnerable. And I decided a long time ago that I would get real with myself, and that's why I share that this happens. The desire for any outcome to be any different from whatever it is and perceived by everyone on a different perception, everyone's entitled to their opinion. And if I just really, really cared so much about being validated or that the applause were big or small or, just so I wouldn't have to feel my vulnerability. And of course it likes very much that you're appreciated. So that's what happens in this choreographer's mind or in this person who is creative, who puts his ideas out there and can have the feelings of being misunderstood, can have the feelings of feeling lonely or unworthy, or all of these kind of things can arise and fall. I can also feel like a genius. I can have these extreme polarized thoughts about my work or my experience as a creator. As a teacher, as a person, because there's a person behind all these labels that I'm sharing with you exactly right now. So I've said this before, but I want to say it again because it's really important for me to share the realness of my channel, or just realness for me or what I experience. But then that's just an experience, and maybe it resonates that you also have negative thoughts about yourself and that you project that onto other people. And when we get afraid, we want to attack, and we want people to feel what we feel and be upset with people for having an opinion of not liking or liking. And we love the ones who like and also give attention, and all these kind of things are just constructs. I realize they're not reality. For me to alleviate some suffering. Suffering's going to be had and definitely hijacked for a second. But being aware, you can change your brain and change the way you think about things, and things just change. So if you're feeling inferior at all, it's just a concept. There's no such thing. Creativity is creativity, and it is coming from you, which is already a validation, and we don't come from lack or searching for the approval of other people. I know I work in this profession and I know a lot of people, and I never really have these conversations. I don't really have them so much because it's misunderstood, or it's like it's not good enough, or whatever. However it's perceived is a perception from someone's own mind or someone's own need of to meet the requirements of the need. and I share that because it doesn't matter. There's no, I think any kind of mental construct that is labeling you or the experience doesn't make you bad or good or better. And what I realized is that the desire to be somebody, which is natural for us to desire, but the desire to be other than I am in any moment would be a counterintuitive experience for me to have my conscious moment of happiness and joy and rise above every situation that I can rise above. I'm very proud of myself for that, and I share that because it's just not a conversation. I have the ability to love, and I sometimes can feel that it's misunderstood. I'm not talking about romantic love, I'm talking about the love of self and self-reliance and being self-reliant and not need. I don't know where I will go. I don't know anything that will happen thus far from this moment, but I certainly know that I make a choice, and I make a choice that love, human love, and if that's acceptance, is vital to me for my survival. And I change the way I think, and I feel immense joy and gratitude on a more persistent, consistent level than the negativity of my voice and the vulnerability that I feel has lessened. I do have vulnerability, and whenever you create, I guess it'll always be there. The unclearing of domestication and the changing of one's mind is very, very difficult. And it's like, we've all agreed to be in a community where we belong because we've adapted ourselves and to fit into everyone's concept of what success is or failure or lack of I don't know, which just created a lot of inferiority in me. The feeling of inferiority can bring on this awareness for me, and that's what I felt, and feeling inferior with my work, or feeling inferior with me, or being meeting adversity and meeting all of these so-called requirements of the requirements to be just me. And I share this because it's what is important for me. These roles are masks I wear, I guess could serve at one point, but it's taking it off more and more and being really responsible for myself and relying on myself, and there's no need for any circumstance to bring me some kind of happiness. And that's just by opening and being aware of all the flux and the flow of life and these polarized thoughts and moods, and realizing anything that is happening is not me. The part that is aware and looking at myself is me, is the authentic part that I most identify with. So if there's any kind of suffering of comparison that you're feeling not good, it is all illusional. You are valid and beautiful, and that's all that needs to be experienced and known. And and it's possible by being aware. We're conscious creatures. We are possible to really validate or reevaluate ourselves and unlearn what we learned. Perhaps domestication and conditioning is inevitable because we have to fit into a society, and we're told of who we are until we realize, hey, I don't know. If I identify with what they've told me, it brings suffering. And suffering and pain are hugely important for the contrast of your life to grow. And I share that with you, and I just share that with all sincerity, with love in my heart, and just be that and speak, just share it because I have that possibility. I hope you have a beautiful, wonderful day, and this sharing will reach you or not reach you, and all of it's beautiful and good. Life is beautiful, and life is a constant showing up for you in so many beautiful ways. And the less attachment we have of circumstance or the need to be approved by other people or validated or you know, loved. Love is not conditional. And once we realize that, and especially within ourselves, we become more, we experience joy more often, and we experience love more often without any kind of need or requirement for anything to be different, and accepting all that is. I love you so much, and thank you for watching me if you've gotten this far, and be good. Be good, be you, and bring some pride and beauty into this world. Thank you for watching if you watched this far again. I love you so much, and take care. Bye.